mynews.studio.
In the Guatemalan highlands, a single sapling can mean the difference between drought and survival. But how did one community respond and turn a local crisis into a wider movement?
Today is July 21st, 2025. Let's start with the basics. What exactly happened in western Guatemala that led to this grassroots reforestation project?
In the late 1990s, decades of illegal logging and unchecked deforestation had stripped forests from the highlands. And this wasn't just about losing trees. Water supplies, local biodiversity, and the livelihoods of indigenous communities were all under threat. In the village of Pachaj, 3 friends saw officials weren't stepping in, so they decided to act themselves.
So this didn't come from the top down. It really began with local people?
Exactly. One of them was Jorge Armando Lopez Pocol, a young Mayan man. The 3 friends started with just 2,000 seedlings and a makeshift nursery. Weekends became their planting days, focusing on the lands hit hardest by logging.
Did they get support early on, or was it really just those 3 handling everything?
At first, it was really just them. Over time, Armando's friends moved on, but he stayed. He named the initiative the Chico Mendes Reforestation Project after the Brazilian activist. For years, it remained a grassroots effort. But slowly, local youth joined, then international volunteers.
And now, are we talking about a few thousand trees, or has it grown much bigger?
Much bigger now. Today, Chico Mendes plants more than 20,000 trees every year. They focus on over 10 native species and experiment with new varieties to speed up reforestation.
So it's more than just planting trees. There's something else happening?
A lot more, actually. The project brings in schools, families, and revives traditional ecological knowledge. For instance, they collect seeds at different altitudes and prepare compost using humus, black earth, and white sand, methods passed down from indigenous communities.
So it's not just environmental. There's a cultural side too?
That's right. It's about restoring land, but also about empowering indigenous voices and their knowledge. They nurture seedlings for years and care for young trees until they can survive on their own. This is very different from the government's approach, which is usually more hands-off.
Why do people say the government's approach is superficial?
Because the government often plants large numbers of trees but doesn't provide long-term care or involve local communities. Chico Mendes, in contrast, focuses on survival rates and hands-on engagement, which has been much more effective.
Water scarcity in Cantel is a real issue. How does reforestation help with that specifically?
Trees help retain water in the soil, reduce erosion, and stabilize the local climate. In Cantel, reforestation isn't optional. It's essential for survival. It's also a kind of political resistance.
And when it comes to challenges, like funding or opposition, how did Chico Mendes handle that?
They relied on community support, volunteer work, and partnerships abroad. By involving families and young people, they built a base that could weather political indifference or even pushback.
How do they know if it's working? Is it just about counting trees?
They keep annual records of trees planted, but they also look at things like the return of wildlife and better crop yields. It's not always scientific, but the changes are visible in the landscape and community.
Has this approach caught on elsewhere?
Yes, the Chico Mendes model centered on local ownership and native species has inspired similar projects in Guatemala and across Latin America. Each adapts a bit to local conditions, but the main ideas stay the same.
So what's the main lesson here? Why does this story matter outside Guatemala?
It shows that when a community leads restoration, drawing on its own knowledge, it can reverse deforestation, even with limited means. It's a practical example of how to tackle climate change and give agency to those most affected.
Thanks for explaining all that. This really is about more than trees. It's about agency, knowledge, and resilience.
And about hope, because it proves change is possible, even when the odds seem stacked against you.
That's it for today's episode. Thanks for listening. This episode was powered by mynews.studio. Try it now for free.